Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode. I just recorded this video and the microphone stopped halfway. So here we are doing it again. What I do for you guys. So today's episode is probably going to be pissing off a few people, especially if you're a huge fan of EOS and the proponent of voice. But today I'm talking about some very, very important information, particularly for those of you who are excited about voice and you want to participate. I want you to watch this video in its entirety because I really think it's important that you understand everything that you're laying on the line for the sake of using this platform. So without further ado, let's get into it. So what better way to kick off this video than understanding the mission of voice, what they want to accomplish, what kind of a atmosphere they're trying to facilitate with their rules and regulations and their guidelines and their KYC and all of this stuff. Basically, from what I understand, from all of the reading and the research that I've done about voice and all the things that voice has published about itself, it is a platform searching for authentic content creators to have deep discussions and a real civil pursuit of truth and integrity. No bots. That is, in a nutshell, the mission of voice. So a couple months ago, it was brought to the public's attention that voice will be requiring a fairly rigorous KYC process in order for those to participate. First of all, the beta is not yet out, but it will be limited to those who are only in the US as of now. And of course, will be limited to those who are willing and able to go through this KYC process, who have the right information, the right kind of documents that will satisfy the KYC hoops that voice is going to make you jump through. So limitations there is a whole lot more in the form of limitations that I will be going into in this video. But again, I hope that you watch it in its entirety because at the end of this video, I will be going over the privacy notice of voice and the fact that this social network will be public and broadcast onto something like a blockchain. It brings a little bit of weight and seriousness to the happenings and the information of voice that they collect, of course, about you. So right off the bat, voice does a couple different things regarding this aspect of KYC. They say it's a necessary evil, kind of. It's a necessary evil to determine if you are a real person. Because, again, they want to foster an environment that enables real people to have real conversations that they really like with other people. And of course, the best way to do this right now is with KYC. Now, here's my issue is that, okay, I read one blog post by someone who I'm guessing is a huge fan of Dan Larimer. No hate on Dan. He is a very, very intelligent person. But this article was basically saying those who are pursuing privacy or who value their privacy, who won't go through KYC requirements, are pretty much really paranoid conspiracy theorists. Nothing bad is actually going to happen with that information. And basically anyone who wants privacy is a criminal. I'll link this blog post down below. That's definitely a paraphrase and definitely my impression of that blog. Anyway, they're defending this. They're saying it facilitates, number one, okay, of course, the real discussions, and it also limits things like bots. So I've read several times, of course, full disclosure, I've never visited the dark web. I've never bought anything on the dark web, so can't say this from personal experience, but I've read several, times that to purchase stolen ID information of people from all of these hacks that happen, from all these other websites that store your information that have been hacked, that information is now free to whoever wants to buy it. It's pretty cheap to buy a lot of people's information. So for this to be, it's not a foolproof way of preventing bots. I'm sorry, not sorry. it's just, I feel like that's a really weak argument for defending KYCs because it prevents bots. I mean, is that really the worst thing? Is that really worth putting at risk every single one of your users' information, requiring them to cough up their really sensitive information? I don't think so. I can understand both sides of these arguments, okay? Understanding why when you know you're talking to a real person, they have probably a much higher responsibility of wanting to represent themselves in a more honest way. But here's the issue, is that when that honesty falls on the wrong side of the rules. And that is when using things like pseudonyms are protective of people. They can share their thoughts freely without any repercussions. You know, I'm not trying to defend people who post horrific things or are threatening people's lives or anything like that. I'm just saying a general discourse of political views, of religious views, any kind of a view that can be taken the wrong way or, you know, held against someone for sharing them. I think using a pseudonym enables you to share your thoughts a lot more freely without the risk of, you know, someone calling the cops on you, or I don't know, just like knowing where you live, knowing your full name. If someone really disagreed with you, you're kind of vulnerable at that point to them. Stalkers are real, threats are real, people are real in that way too. So I think using pseudonyms, or at least allowing that on any kind of a social platform, is a good thing. Also, this thought of you can't have like a real constructive conversation with someone unless you know they're a real person. I don't know if you know this, but there was this one person who we don't really know who they are still to this day. But they were able to create something called Bitcoin, and their pseudonym was Satoshi Nakamoto. This person also created the Bitcoin Talk Forum, which facilitated the conversation of thousands of other people to have completely constructive conversations about Bitcoin, why they think it's great, why they think it will be valuable in the future, why they think it's terrible, why they think it's not going to go anywhere. It allowed a really great environment of free discussion and free speech. And I think that anonymity is something that should be valued, or at least be an option for people. And unfortunately for voice at this point, it's not. In fact, there is a Twitter conversation with Brendan Bloom, who is the CEO of Block One, and Colin Talks Crypto, who's a pretty cool guy. And so here's the conversation. Colin asks Brendan Bloomer, do you think you will enable voice participants to verify with KYC, but choose not to have their full name, publicly viewable if they have privacy concerns? This way, you get the best of both worlds, verified real users and also privacy for those who want it. Brendan Bloomer says, we won't have that functionality initially, but it's something we are discussing continuously. It's not that we don't think that feature is interesting. It's more of a matter as to whether we feel it helps us accomplish the voice mission. He should say it's not that we don't think this feature is interesting. Privacy is interesting. No. Privacy should be essential. At the very least, privacy should be an option. Also, they're not sure if privacy will help them accomplish the voice mission. It's kind of scary hearing that. And then Colin says, I just worry you may be reducing your user base by not allowing privacy. For example, I won't personally sign up unless I can use a pseudonym. And, of course, he doesn't say anything back to that. He just says, oh, I hope you join the beta. So that's also the kind of limitations that voice right off the bat is putting on people is interesting. Not to take Brendan's word. It's interesting because it's a social media network. It's a social network. And the very lifeblood of any social network is the network effect. And something like that, like limiting those who can participate on the platform for a platform that is brand spanking new, that is trying to compete against other, not only decentralized social networks that are trying to break the mold or be a solution, but also against the centralized social media networks, which many people are still very much hooked on because of the network effect of that centralized network. They won't leave it because the network effect is strong for keeping them. So it'll be interesting to see how voice continues, if it continues, and yeah, who actually uses the platform. So I'm going to get into the legal paperwork that has been made public by Voice, published on all of the bottom little links on their website. You can find things like their foreword, their ground rules, and their privacy notice, all of which I think are very important for you to pay attention to, again, especially if you are planning at all or curious for using Voice. So their foreword, right off the bat, again, they say, we limit who can join, when they join, and how, based on our guidelines and legal requirements. Okay? And also, it's kind of funny, many of their legal statements are first led by really empowering, really kind of feel-good sentences, and then right off the bat followed by a sentence that just completely undermines that first sentence. For example, free speech is our bedrock. Okay, awesome. Free speech is our bedrock, but we also maintain a respectful environment. So that speech is subject to our ground rules. So you have free speech as long as you're speaking in the way that they approve. Kind of doesn't sound like free speech to me. They also say that they reserve the right to terminate accounts and suspend accounts at any time. Voice is for real people. And then they're talking, okay, so a little bit more about this KYC. They do admit they are using a third-party company for going through all this KYC information. So essentially, you're giving your information to Voice and also to this third-party KYC. And if you're, again, participating in Voice, check out the privacy policy, because although they say Voice says this in the foreword. They say they delete it automatically after a period of time according to their privacy policy. And their privacy policy says that they keep your very sensitive information, like your documents, like your passport information, your driver's license information. You're like very sensitive, where you would be nervous if it was in the hands of someone else. They keep that information for 7 days. Even if, let's say you get approved after 24 hours, you would think they would delete it right away. No, they have it for another 7 days. That's 7 days of it being vulnerable. And additionally, they will keep things like your full name, your email, the town that you live in, and your phone number. They will keep that information for 2 years, regardless of what happens with your account. If you never use it again, if you delete it, if you can delete it. I don't know if you can delete your account on Voice. But so they will keep that information for 2 years. Keep in mind, if this KYC company goes out of business, is bankrupt, is bought out, whoever buys that company has your information. So good luck with that. So anyone who chooses to go through KYC information, I understand sometimes you have to if you don't want to, just because you need one on-ramp for fiat or something like this. If you go through KYC, you better hope that whoever you are giving your information to will respect your information a lot more than you do, because you did just give it away for free. Just a little thought nugget there for anyone who is going through KYC like crazy. You're happy to give anyone your sensitive information. You are asking for that information to get breached and to be sold on the dark net, and just asking for trouble, really. Okay, so let's address this free speech thing of Voice, right? Can we please all agree, first of all, that this framework of a decentralized network and a blockchain affords people the ability to provide a platform for social media or for social networking that should enable censorship resistance and privacy protection, really, because if it is a properly decentralized network, they shouldn't require your information for the sake of regulators. And also, as a blockchain and it being decentralized, there should be some censorship resistance there, where there's not one single entity controlling everything that is being published on that blockchain or platform. So Dan Larimer, the creator of BitShares, the creator of Steam, and the creator of EOS. He created this whole new consensus algorithm, delegated proof of stake. Although I am not the biggest fan of this type of consensus because it is far more centralized and limited than things like proof of work or proof of stake. He is a smart man, and I think that he very much has the ability to create something outside of KYC requirements that would allow people to have proof of life of them not being a bot. There's this really cool thing called PGP encryption that allows people to, sign messages and prove that it's really them. In a way that it's not a bot. Dan he's built some really successful platforms in the past, and I'm not going to put it past him to be able to create something that is successful in a way to prove, remove bots without having to put their own users at risk of exposing their very sensitive information to a third party. So I don't know. I feel like there's some foreign interests at play here with who has invested in EOS, who has invested in Voice, and who they kind of feel indebted to and cater to in that way. Okay, so they have the ability also to restrict or to remove accounts if these participants aren't participating within the ground rules of Voice. And here are a few. There's a lot. Of course, there's no pornography, no threats of death or injury or harm to people. Of course, okay, I'm on board for that. But here's some things. Voice is a place where content creators can share their work with the world at large and engage in civil discussions with registered users. Voice has a deep, here's another one of those oxymoronic sentences. Voice has a deep and abiding respect for freedom of expression and the transformative power of robust and vigorous debate in the marketplace of ideas. What a well-written, inspiring sentence. Freedom of expression as long as it stays in the confines of the ground rules of Voice. It's like, man, they're trying so hard to blur the lines of what's really happening and trying to market it very well. But you have to look at things like this and really see it for what it is and what's really going on. And that's the point of this video. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer on Voice. I'm not trying to, but they're not making it easy. So, okay. Voice, the platform, owns the responsibility of enforcing policies and laws governing certain forms of speech. How is that at all in facilitating free speech? These ground rules prioritize limiting only those forms of speech that are legally objectionable or that present a clear and present danger to the Voice community. I'm not sure. They're not exactly clear who Voice is, who specifically is the one responsible for determining if the content is flagged. Something tells me all of the content being produced on here isn't going to be manually reviewed. They're probably going to be using algorithms, much like YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, to flag content that they think should be flagged. And as we've seen, this channel itself was also affected by the algorithms gone bad on YouTube, where they're flagging me for creating content that was selling unlicensed goods. Which I don't know if you guys are at all familiar with this channel, that's not at all what I do. I don't sell anything. I don't even advertise anything. So anyway, that's just one example. And so for me, it's like a perfect example of how Voice is exactly the same as Facebook, as Twitter, as any kind of centralized authority controlling the flow of information. I don't see really what kind of solution they're really trying to bring other than preventing bots. And is that really I don't know. That's not very inspiring. Is it just to have a bot-free environment? I don't know. So again, I'll be providing links to all of this information, and I highly suggest that you look through these and really study it. Even if you're seeing EOS and Voice through rose-colored glasses, I encourage you to take those glasses off and really be skeptical and have take it all with a grain of salt, because they're trying to sell you with something. And I'm going to end here with a very, very important thing, and that is the privacy notice of Voice. Because, again, this platform is working on a blockchain. And so things that you share on Voice will be published to a publicly viewable blockchain forever, will not be deleted. So here's information that they list is publicly accessible by those who are users of Voice, registered users, and those who aren't. Just anyone who is searching through the Voice blockchain or the Voice website, they will have access to your full name, the photo that you provide to us to use as your profile photo, and your place of residence. I don't think that's exactly your address specifically, but definitely your town and country of where you're living. Also, it should be noted that I believe things like this will be included in the blockchain as a hash, so it's not completely transparent. But here is the thing. Okay, I have to go over this. They go over number 7, rights of individuals in certain places. If you are located in certain places, you may have some or all of the following rights. And they include, among a lot of things, the right to require any inaccurate personal data that we hold about you to be corrected or deleted. The right to object to our use of your personal data for direct marketing purposes at any time. Voice will be using all of this very identifying sensitive information that you've provided to them to make money off of things like direct marketing. If they weren't, why would they include it in their privacy notice? And so that's the way that they're going to be making money. And this also is a perfect example of how Voice is much worse than things like Google or Facebook, because they have the ability to match your super sensitive information, like where you live, your full name, what you like, and everything that you participate with on Voice, what you comment on, what you like, what you share, what you say. All of that information is gold for things like advertisers to target you, to get exactly what you want, your political views, your religious views, whatever it may be. It's all information that they use to sell you things. And that is probably how Voice is going to be making a lot of money. And it also is why it is a lot worse than Facebook and Google, because Facebook and Google do not require you to give up all of this information to them in order to use the platform. Voice does. And I think that the fact that they are matching this with direct marketing is an extremely ugly tactic and something that is less than transparent. But again, it is publicly viewable information, but certainly not something that they are talking too loudly about. I don't know. Call me crazy, but it seems like whoever was creating Voice has one hell of an ego to think that they can create a platform that would be ideal for them to talk to, but be severely limiting to so many other people, and think that it's going to be successful. It seems like the only people who are really going to be participating in Voice, in my opinion, are going to be those who are EOS fanboys, people who really don't understand the importance of privacy and of protecting their personal information, and Dan Larimer, of course, and Brendan Bloomer. And Brendan, is it Bloomer or Bloom? Oops, have I been saying his name? Bloomer. And of course, the CEO of Voice. So pretty much the echo chamber will continue for EOS with Voice. So that's going to wrap it up for today's video. I do hope that you found it to be informative and opened your eyes a little bit to what is required for you to participate in Voice, and what you're really giving up and what you're really going to be participating in. So I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I will be coming to you again soon. In the meantime, I hope you have a good one.